Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Monday evening to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there, having yourselves a great night and a great ending to your 3-day weekend. If you didn't get a 3-day weekend, hope you guys are having a great start to your work week and had a great Monday out there. Regardless, a pretty big video tonight. We're going to talk about 2 to 3 topics. The first topic is going to be the significant weather maker that's going to be crossing the country about midway this week, really cranking up, really starting tomorrow, and will bring some accumulating snow for a lot of the central plains, really talking about areas of Colorado, Nebraska, Iowa, small portions of Kansas, even areas of Minnesota. So we got a couple things to talk about because those areas that do get snow could get a lot of snow, maybe as much as a foot of snow. And then that same system is going to promote some severe weather for portions of the Deep South. We'll talk about that for Wednesday. There's a level 2 out of 5, a slight risk for severe storms. We're currently just in range for some of these short-range model guidance, so we can take a look at them, take a peek at what's going on with the storm mode, of the evolution of how these storms can unfold. And then stay tuned for you folks in the eastern U.S. who are holding on for hope, that just think the winter is just over. I got some news for you. We might have some changes. I'm not saying we're going to get this substantial pattern change for more cold and wintry weather, but I'm starting to see some ticks in today's model guidance that might point to some good news for us winter weather fans. So we'll talk about that, but just remember, there's just one day's worth of model runs. They could turn around and go the other way tomorrow. So just remember, whatever I say in these videos, it's not set in stone. I think some people, when they watch, really not just my channel, but anybody's channel, they look at things and as if it's the final solution of what's going to happen. Just remember, don't do that with weather, especially when we're talking about something past 5 days, really past tomorrow. We really don't truly know exactly what's going to happen tomorrow. We just have an idea, right? Just a forecast. So just remember that as you're watching this. But there's been some changes today, especially in the European ensemble. It was a huge flip in the way of more colder air. I think the cold air is coming, guys, but it's going to dump into the western, the central U.S. first. The confidence is highest there, so we'll talk about that. But if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, definitely put those in the comments so I can pray over them and so others can do so too. If you notice something different on your screen, this little cursor thing over here, this makes it where I can circle different things like this. This is new to me. Gerald, the guy's channel that I mentioned down here, which is a great channel to subscribe to. Peter also. I talked about his channel one time in the beginning of the video. He's definitely an up-and-coming channel. You'll hear he's here locally, here in the upstate of South Carolina. For you local people who like to watch people who are more local, he's from South Carolina here in the southeast. So, of course, he knows our neck of the woods a little bit, probably more comfortably talking about that area, just kind of like I am. But definitely a great follow. You'll see him on TV one day. I can almost guarantee it. He goes to college at UNC Charlotte here, locally here in the Carolinas, and he's a great guy. I met him in person. Very great follow. So definitely subscribe to his channel. He makes daily videos just like I do. But anyways, let's talk about the weather here. Winter storm warnings up for the 76 corridor, Interstate 76, and then it turns into 80 right here in Nebraska. I really think from 76 to 80 goes all the way to Omaha. I believe, let me see, yes. I don't want to butcher. Yes, 80 goes through Omaha. So I got Google Maps over here. I'm going to keep it real with you guys. I just don't want to butcher any geographical cities or locations or anything like that for you folks in Nebraska, Colorado, and Iowa. But yeah, 80 does run right through Nebraska. And I think this is going to be a pretty big winter storm for you guys. Substantial snowfall totals right along Interstate 80, 76 to 80 out of Colorado. So winter storm warnings up for North Platte, Fort Morgan, Colorado. Winter storm watches up for Omaha. You got some advisories up here, but really this is going to be the corridor, the big storm. Winter storm watches will get extended probably further into Iowa. Speaking of Iowa, remember we were talking about a severe weather threat? It ended up materializing. It was a freaking wedge tornado and temperatures in the upper 40s to low 50s in areas of eastern Iowa. This afternoon. It was pretty wild, but it materialized. We talked about the potential. There was going to be a 1 to 3 hour window, and certainly some storm chasers got that on footage. Crazy wedge tornado and very low temperatures and low thermodynamics, but Sometimes can Maddox win over, which is that wind energy you need. But let's talk about this winter storm that will be cranking up. This is the beginning of it tomorrow evening. Around this time tomorrow evening, I think it'll be snowing in Denver. And then as we get into the middle of the night tomorrow night, I think there will be some heavy snow falling in northeast Colorado, right up 76, and then it links into 80. And then I think sometime in the middle of the night, the snow will move into areas like North Platte, Nebraska, and then as we're waking up Wednesday morning, I think this starts to move into central Nebraska, but it'll be falling heavily in areas of southwest and western areas of Nebraska, and then there'll be an area of pretty heavy snow right here in far northwest Kansas. Definitely stay tuned to your local forecast up here. In these regions for sure. There's going to be an area of ice right into here, right here, the border, the southern border of Nebraska and Kansas, where I definitely think some ice can fall, can be a problem in this area. I think this snow will continue to make its way through. I think this ice is getting very close to Omaha. I think Lincoln, Nebraska could get into a little bit of ice, a little bit of a wintry mix. Lincoln sits just southwest of Omaha, and I really think you guys are going to be kind of flirting with a border between ice and snow, but I definitely think you will get some snow in Lincoln. In fact, I think you might get as much as a half a foot of snow. And we'll talk about snowfall accumulations here in a second. You stop at about midday Wednesday. It's snowing like crazy in the heart of Nebraska, still snowing back here in Colorado. And you were to keep this going here, we're getting into Wednesday afternoon. Some winter weather begins to move into, stretch a little bit more into southern areas of South Dakota. And then it's knocking on the door of Des Moines. Snow begins to fall Wednesday evening for these areas. And then we have to watch how far north this gets. This is getting into late Wednesday night. And this is Minneapolis, which sits right into here. You're right on the fringe of some pretty heavy snowfall. I think southern Minnesota and certainly central to northern Iowa is going to get some heavy snow probably in the middle of the night, Wednesday night into Thursday. And here comes this winter weather. I think the entire state of Wisconsin could certainly get a pretty substantial winter weather event from this, especially as we're getting into Thursday morning. It's still snowing. I definitely think the snow is going to make it into Minneapolis. It's just, is it going to be substantial snow criteria for you guys? Is taste. I don't know what y'all consider a lot of snow in Minneapolis, but I certainly don't think 4 inches, 5 inches is a ton of snow for you guys. But for you winter weather fans in Chicago, I know I have a couple people who view from Chicago. It looks like, unfortunately, for you winter weather fans, this low pressure is going to ride potentially right over the city, which is going to bring a lot of warm air through it. So it looks like Chicago points south is going to stay rain with this. But if you go just north of town into the over the border into Illinois, into Wisconsin, it's certainly going to be more so snow. You get to Milwaukee, Green Bay. I think Green Bay will have a substantial snowstorm from this. And then here comes into the UP of Michigan, heavy snow as we're getting into midday Thursday. And then this starts to churn away and starts to become maybe in eastern U.S. And then we got to watch the eastern U.S., guys. We'll back it up a little bit here. This moves in, could start off maybe Thursday afternoon with some winter weather in New York State. And maybe even for Massachusetts, you got to watch out. Maybe starts out as a wintry mix before this low pressure potentially transfers. Potentially. This is what the Euro wants to do, right? Transfers a low pressure here. There's enough cold air on top, but it keeps it a lot of winter weather from the state of Mass north into New Hampshire, Vermont for overnight Thursday into Friday morning. So this is right in the middle of the night, Thursday night. Has some heavy snow, so a little bit of a wintry mix in areas. Low pressure really close by, but this would create a burst of snow and almost keep it all snow for Boston before briefly changing to rain as we get into Friday morning. So some things we need to watch out for. It's a tricky system. The GFS is a little bit different, but confidence is very high on the Central Plains part of this. In fact, let's talk about snowfall accumulations based off the National Weather Service, which, the people you want to look to first when talking about anything weather related is the experts of the National Weather Service. Denver, maybe 6 to 8 inches of snow, certainly possible. Up to Fort Morgan, definitely, 7 to 9, maybe as much as 10 inches of snow in the Fort Morgan area. I'm going to look at Google Maps so I can mention a couple, certainly mention a couple areas here on the 5. Sterling, Colorado, right here into this area, 7 to 8 inches of snow is looking likely at this point. We'll go on and flip it and move it into Colorado. North Platte right here, I believe, 8 to 10 inches of snow predicted by the National Weather Service. If you're talking about on the T, it's saying 9.5 inches of snow in North Platte. You keep it going, guys. And, I just want to mention a couple cities. I don't do this a whole lot, but you go down to McCook, Nebraska. It's talking about it's right on the fringe of the heaviest snow, maybe a half a foot of snow, 7 inches of snow. You get down into areas of Kansas. It looks like Goodland, for example, is going to be just south of the heaviest snow. But if you go up here and the far northwest areas of Kansas, right into here, areas like St. Francis, Bird City, right into these areas, maybe 4, 5, 6 inches of snow. So I just wanted to mention a couple cities, just do that on the fly for you guys. But McCook, like I said, could get a good, and then you get into Lexington, Nebraska, maybe half a foot of snow. You ride the 80 corridor up here, you get into Grand Island, maybe 6 to 7 inches of snow. And then you get into Omaha, which is right here into this region, right into here, 5, 6, 7 inches of snow possible in Omaha. Lincoln, probably an inch or two lower than actual Omaha. But, I just want to mention a couple cities here. Definitely in these northern areas right here, probably just north of 80, right into here is certainly going to have, right basically in the heart of Nebraska, is going to have the best chance to see a foot of snow. But you keep on moving and you get into the upper Midwest, which includes Iowa, like Des Moines, certainly 4 to 5, 6 inches of snow is possible. And then you watch this area, Minneapolis right here, the National Weather Service just saying maybe 3 to 4 inches of snow, but I could see this trended higher. So we need to watch out. Old Chicago, not going to get anything. Milwaukee, right now, they're not saying a whole lot, but once you get up to Green Bay, maybe 4, 5, probably more so 5 to 7, 8 inches of snow is possible. And this could be a steady accumulating snow for the UP and Michigan, but this only goes out to Thursday evening, which I believe it is still snowing in these regions. So keep that in mind. So I hope that's good information for you folks. I had about 3 or 4 comments say they're tuning in from Nebraska. I would love any pointers. I'm doing this on the fly. I don't pretend to know every small community in Nebraska, Colorado. I just know some of the bigger areas. But hopefully I mentioned some of the bigger towns and cities in this area. But severe weather for Wednesday with the same system that's going to bring snow up here. We're going to have a slight risk of severe thunderstorms. The storm mode on this is still questionable, but just know Wednesday we're going to have a chance for severe storms. Let's hope it doesn't uptick as far as increased severe weather as we get into time, like it did with this last severe weather event that ended up being a tornado outbreak in Alabama. But definitely keep your guard, up. Just definitely be aware that things can change, guys. But eastern Texas, central to northern Louisiana, southern areas of Arkansas, this might get extended into Memphis, Tennessee in the coming day. This includes Jackson, Shreveport, Louisiana, Jackson, Mississippi, Greenville, Mississippi. So there is going to be a chance of severe weather. We can look at the latest HRRR model. Here comes our low pressure firing off the Rockies, moving through areas of Kansas and then into, just further into the Midwest there. We stop it right here, and this is as far out as the HRRR model goes, but you can already see a couple individual cells firing up in this area. But I really think, and this is going to be the first time I use this cursor, we'll see if we'll do this right. I really think you need to watch this area right into here. This is probably where you're going to be the best thermodynamics right into this region. If you were to keep this model going, we would probably have additional cells that develops in this circled region right here, but it only goes out 48 hours, which takes us to about midday Wednesday. So we certainly need to watch out for this threat. We look at the NAM, and really the HRRR model shows the idea, developing line in eastern Texas, eastern Texas, far western Nebraska, western Arkansas, and then some individual storms firing up ahead. Maybe in this moist sector, you might have more storms firing up. The NAM for this region, same kind of deal. The NAM always favors more of a linear threat, but just shows a line of storms developing sometime Wednesday afternoon from Shreveport, maybe up to Little Rock, maybe as far north as Memphis, and then these sweep through northern areas of Memphis. Might maintain strength, might not. But it really on the NAM, it just shows kind of a broken line of storms. But we saw a line of storms in the event that happened last Thursday, and there was tornadoes embedded in the line of storms. So please just stay aware of what's going on, because it could be a changing situation for sure. But watch out for severe storms in this area. We'll be able to nail down the timing and the storm mode on this probably a lot better as we get into about tomorrow evening's video. That's for sure. So let's go on and talk about this potential pattern change, guys. What we do know, and let me make sure I'm recording here, and I had to make sure I was recording. I kind of lost my little icon down here that kind of symbolized I was recording. So it kind of freaked me out that I was sitting there talking for no reason. But the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, guys, I know you're seeing above average temperatures predicted in the east. I know, but you see well below average temperatures predicted in the southwest. But if you look at this has inched further east now. So this is the 22nd through the 26th time frame, right? So this is getting into the last days of January. So we look at this and we say, okay, we're still above average temperatures, probably not favorable for winter weather in the eastern U.S. Becoming more favorable right here in the Mississippi Valley and areas of the plains. And then when you get into the south central U.S., talking about Dallas, Amarillo, up into Oklahoma City, Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, you're starting to see these below average temperatures kind of leak a little bit east, right? So you go to the 8 to 14 day outlook. Look how it inches a little. It's not an inch. It's a pretty substantial movement east. So we're starting to knock down these above average temperatures predicted in these areas. And we're starting to get this cold air mass potentially making its way a little bit further east in the last several days of January, which is still one of the coldest times of the year. So this is the Climate Prediction Center. These are the experts, so they would know, guys. So it's something we need to certainly watch out for. I'm going to be interested. This is the same kind of deal that happens when we were trying to figure out what was going to happen with our Arctic air mass in late that Christmas Arctic front that we got. We kept watching these climate prediction forecasts, and each day, each outlook, as we got closer to the event, this started inching a little bit further east. So this is what we're going to continue to watch, guys. But the latest Euro ensemble. So watch this. Watch the evolution of this. So this shows North America as a whole. So this is the western U.S. This is the eastern U.S. Here comes our little storms. Well, it's not a little storm. It's a pretty big storm system that we just talked about. And this flies through, low pressure rides right over the Great Lakes, and eventually might do a transfer off the coast of the Northeast. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We watch another system dig down. This is a big questionable system. The GFS is much warmer. The European shows a winter storm for areas of even the 95 corridor. But we'll figure that out in due time. When we get past this system that we're going to be dealing with here in the next 48 hours, we'll start to figure out this next one, maybe for the later part of this coming weekend into early next week. But this could be kind of the kickstarter to our pattern change. Here we go. Watch how these higher heights right here, the higher heights are basically the warmer colors you see here, the ridging. Lower heights is the blues, the more cooler colors you see. Watch how this begins to go away right into here, right in these areas right here. And then all of a sudden, you get what you call a cross-polar flow that sets up probably about 8 to 9 to 10 days away from right now. So this is, if you're wondering what day we're at, this is January 25th, right into here. So basically you have a dump of cold air and troughing setting up. This is cooler than average air showing up, and I'll actually look at temperature anomalies here in a second. And this is the European ensemble, one of the most reliable model guidance out there when trying to forecast what's going to happen in the long range. Look at this tall ridge building into Alaska. Definitely a negative EPO showing up here. Ridging building all the way up to Alaska. We need to keep building for this to enhance a better dump of cold air, a better push of cold air into the lower 48. But look what happens here. Substantial troughing. Anytime I say troughing, think of that as a cold front. Substantial push of cold air being pushed out of Canada into the lower 48. This is about 10 days from now. So this is next Thursday, not this Thursday, but next Thursday. So this is the latest ensemble for the Euro, and this is a big change. If you were basically, let me go all the way out to right here. This is about 11 to 12 days out, pretty far out, not a very reliable time frame. But this is basically an entire lower 48 dump of cold air, and this is a very, very favorable pattern for winter weather for somebody, even for the eastern U.S. This dips the jet stream like this. Let me get my little cursor right here. This dips the jet stream right here. You got pieces of energy that will fly down here, dip down here, potentially do something like that. And one of the biggest things I see with the latest European ensemble is look at this. Look at this right up here. This is blocking setting up in Greenland. So the latest Euro ensemble shows a negative NAO. Remember, we talked about that in late December. And this allows for the dump of cold air, along with this ridging building all the way up into Alaska like that. This pushes this cold air down like this, and with a storm track that kind of buckles like this, you could have winter weather somewhere maybe in these areas. Are there any crazy model runs showing that? No, not right now. But we need to watch. And I know I didn't circle the south, guys, but don't focus too much on that. Don't focus too much on that at all, I'm telling you guys. But this is really, I mean, look at this. This is a negative NAO suddenly showing up. If we keep this showing up with this trough dig right here, we need to watch out, because this will help lock in low pressures in place, will help them slow down, and favor a track right off the eastern coastline with cold air moving in just like this from this troughing. So it's an interesting look, guys, for sure. And let me see if I can get this rolling again. Let's get this up. That's that thing with that cursor. I have to kind of click on the icon up there. But you keep this rolling through the entirety of the run, and then you get a look that looks like a 50-50 low showing up here. And this screams cold air damming to me, but this is getting pretty far out. So there's no point in looking at this. But, I mean, if we back it up to right here, guys, and see the big change, this is what the current European ensemble shows. This is what the European ensemble showed last night. Okay, so you notice it's not much different, but it looks better, right? I mean, it knocks down that ridge just a little bit more. And then if we look at the run from, I don't think it's going to let me show it. I can't go back that far. But anyways, there's been a substantial tick towards cooler air getting to the east. Okay, so if we look at what that looks like temperature-wise, and I know a lot of people want me to show you this incredible snowstorm or something like that, but I don't have anything like that to show you, and I don't even know if I would at this range. There's no point in you guys showing you a crazy winter storm 10 days out, because it's going to change. It's probably going to go away. But as we know, this is this Thursday, the 19th. It shows warmer than average temperatures right here, right? These darker colors, that's warmer than average temperatures. Don't worry about how warm it is. Just know that it's going to be a warm ending to the week. But look, as we get through here, look as some blue colors start to show up. Below average temperatures start to show out west. I mean, I'm talking about 15 to as much as 25 degrees below average shows out west. Still above average temperatures a week out from today for most of the central and eastern U.S. But watch what happens here. As this begins to show up at about 264 hours out, look what this means. We're at 228 hours out right here. We're getting to about that 9 to 10 day period. And watch what happens. We'll go about 10 days out. Cooler than average temperatures beginning to show up in the central U.S. It's just slamming the western U.S. Very cold out west. Seattle might get into an active pattern where they start to see a lot of winter weather. Denver also, and all the big cities out here in the west. Still hanging on for above average temperatures for dear life. But look, as I keep this going here, I take it to about 276 hours out. I know that's pretty far out. That's past day 10, but the entire lower 48. The last several days of January shows below average temperatures, and potentially not just below average temperatures, but well below average temperatures. So it's a substantial, not substantial, but it's a gradual and somewhat substantial change from the European ensemble. And I mean, it keeps on showing this. We go all the way to the end of the run, and it shows the rest of January, basically after the 25th of January, being below average temperature-wise for arguably the coldest times of the year. Now, the GFS ensemble, it's a little different. And I'll be honest, the GFS ensemble has kind of led the way in general, but has it? And I say that because if it all of a sudden shifts to a colder look, then maybe it was wrong all along. So it's something to think about. But what we do know is the cold's going to dump probably west first. This little shot of cold air sets up. This active storm track probably sets up somewhat like this. And this is going to allow for storms to track like this. There might be just enough cold air for these regions of the Northeast to see a little bit of winter weather, but you're still going to have, in general, a pretty active storm track in this area. So if you're on the cold side of this, right into here, you could have winter weather. Starting next week, we're probably going to have another substantial weather system, probably maybe around this time next week. And then maybe on the southern side, you're probably going to have some kind of severe weather threat. And, the GFS from 12Z showed a substantial severe weather threat about a week out or 8 to 9 days out. But it's hard to take that serious when it's so far out. But, I mean, guidance supports it just due to the fact that you have a dividing and clashing of air masses. Typically when you have that, you have severe weather, but you keep this going here. Let me get this icon rolling here. And you keep this rolling, and this is when that cross-polar flow sets up. Cold air begins to dump from this polar air mass up here, and this is when temperatures at the surface really begin to respond, meaning you really start to get below average temperatures into the central and western U.S., but then do they make it to the eastern U.S.? Look how it's gradually starting to beat it down, and I'm already seeing, and this is actually the first time I'm looking at this. Look at 10 days out off the GFS ensemble. It's starting to trend a little further east, guys. And this is actually me. This is the first time I'm looking at it. I haven't even looked at the 18C GFS ensembles yet. But I can already tell you, this is a substantial change. And if you look at the run-to-run 500 millibar change here, look at that massive change from the last run. That is huge. And if you can't really see what I'm talking about, I'll try to explain it a little bit better in time. But basically, we just showed you what the run looks like. Look sudden agreement. And guys, I'm winging this on the fly because the 18Z GFS ensemble hadn't finished running when I started the video. But I mean, look at the European ensemble. I mean, great look for winter returning for the central and eastern US. Now look at the latest 18Z GFS ensemble. Has all of a sudden shifted this push of cold air further east. Now it's just one model suite of runs. But man, what a change. And, of course, the ridge tries to flex a little bit at the end, but I wouldn't focus too much on that. You know, this is a big change. If we look at what this looks like for next Friday sometime, 258 hours out, and you look at the run before this, look how different it looks. Substantial change. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of blue here, but you have a lot of troughing more west, and then look at the ridge. And let's look at the current run again and see what kind of changes happens here. So a little bit of a steeper ridge up to Alaska. And man, that's a cold look. You look at what the temperatures kind of look like in response to this. And man, I mean, you can't ask for much more of that if you're a winter weather fan. For this time of the year, January 27th, well below average temperatures showing up. You're just begging for something to come up with a dip in the jet stream. And if you go back and you look at this, and like I said, I know this is confusing on what you look at. The blues you see here, that is troughing, dipping in the jet streams or a low pressure. And what you're looking at here is the lower anomalies right here, the lower heights is basically a dip in the jet stream. So if I look at the cursor right here, basically a storm track would probably be favored just like this. So cold air right on top, right? Someone up here would get slammed, potentially. And then you got our tall ridge up here, which allows for basically a dislodgement of cold air from the Arctic. Okay, then we watch with a negative NAO flirting up here, ridging building up here. There's a lot going on. I got to get a hang of this cursor, but I'm starting to like it already here. But that's all I got, guys. I kind of did something there on the fly that I wasn't expecting. But listen, there's some changes going on. But it's just a half a day worth of changes. If they turn around and go right back, then it's questionable. Right, so that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. I'll have you an update in the morning. God bless all y'all, and talk to you soon.